Okay, we're starting at the bottom of page 933, Lord Meher. Rustam went for a swim across the Pravara River on the 8th, but in midstream he became exhausted and began choking. Within moments, Baba, followed by some of the Mandali, walked rapidly from the ashram to the river. Baba pointed to Rustam, who was about to go under the water. Without hesitating, Sorab Hansotia jumped into the river and brought him safely to the on the brought him to safety on the bank. There was another occasion when Baba saved Rustam, for if Baba had not suddenly appeared, Rustam would have certainly drowned. This was another occasion. The following day, Saturday, the 9th of June, 1928, the Mandali began leveling a meadow with a roller for the students' playground. They were given tea 4 times that day to sustain them in the strenuous work. The school had already started from the very first day in Toka, June 4th, and Baba scolded Dake and Manikar for arriving late for their classes. Rustam's wife, Frani, and their 2 sons, 4-year-old Melu, 3-year-old Falu, and their 1-year-old daughter Meru, arrived the following day, brought by Adi Sr., and began staying in the new ashram. Adi returned to Ahmednagar. On 11 June, Baba ordered Kaikushru Masa to dig a hole in the ground near the table cabin for a duni. Soon after, a heavy rain started and poured down throughout the rest of the day. The scenery around Toka was bucolic, but at night there were hordes of pestering insects. Snakes and scorpions were also found in abundance. Shagan was an expert at killing snakes, and every night he would be required to demonstrate his skill. Some sense of the hardships the Mandali faced can be had from these lines from Chanji's diary of June 11th. The heavy rains caused all work to be stopped, and though there was a distinct change in the atmosphere, the nuance at night, particularly the 100 various sorts of worms and insects, also the risk of scorpion and snake bite, made all a little uneasy and for a time upset. There was much congestion in the Makan, the Mandali's residence. Members who had been sleeping outside were forced to come in because of the rains. The inconvenience was all the more felt when 3 Hindu ladies and 1 gentleman, Shagan's relatives, had to stay in the Makan for the night. The duni was lit on Tuesday, 12 June, 1928 at 7:30 in the evening, and Baba's Arti was sung. That day, a telegram was received from Meredith Starr, the man Rustam had contacted in England, stating that he had boarded a boat for India along with his fiancée, or paramour, and her sister, but without any boys. The British government had refused to allow the boys to emigrate. Baba was very annoyed at the news, for he wanted some boys from England in the school ashram. The next day, the weather was cloudy and full of gloom. Reflecting Baba's mood, he complained, "I am fed up with everything and everybody, and the climate here is terrible. What earthly good is my coming to Toka if the spirit..." He added, "I will stop eating and remain only on milkless tea, wearing only a loincloth." He took off his sadra and remained in the baggy shadis, the boxers. Soon afterward, Baba became quite restless and began walking about from one place to another. He would sit down and then immediately stand up and move on again. He did not remain in one position, sitting or lying down, for more than half a minute. No one could guess the reason or alleviate his apparent anxiety and distress. The mystery was solved the following day when Aga Ali's father arrived in Toka, demanding his son's return. Haji had heard a vicious rumor and was upset. However, due to Rao Saheb's convincing assurances that his son was quite well, he calmed down and left. Only then did the Mandali understand the reason for Baba's restlessness the previous day. On Thursday, 14 June 1928, Baba prepared a timetable for the boys in the Prem Ashram and laid down the usual rules for the Mandali concerning every facet of their life. Bal Saheb was appointed manager of the ashram. Referring to him, Baba remarked, though Bua Saheb is reasonable, the tone and the way he talks with people is not befitting. For instance, instead of saying, my mother, he says, my father's wife. He serves me faithfully and with all his heart, but he puts people off by his manner of speaking. Adi Sr. arrived in Toka and spent the night, returning to Ahmednagar the next day. During this period, Rustam, Dali, and Gulmai were staying with Baba, while Adi was living in Kushru quarters with his father, Khan Saheb, and running any errands that needed to be done in Ahmednagar. On 15 June, a new seat was made for Baba near the table cabin. Zoroaster's birthday was observed, and Baba made a special visit to the women's Mandali quarters to allow them to perform his arti. He would go to see them every day, making certain that they were living strictly according to his orders. During 1928, Meher's Baba's name and message began to spread in certain circles in Europe. On 16 June, a discussion arose about a group of enthusiasts in Warsaw, Poland, who had written that they were forming an association to promote the cause of spirituality, as outlined in Dastor's recently published booklet about Baba. Baba remarked that it was a good sign. And the footnote says, a few weeks later, one of the Warsaw group wrote asking permission to come to Toka, but they never came. A local village madcap came to see Baba in the afternoon when Baba was deeply absorbed in his daily routine of activities. He asked Baba's permission to perform on his Shenai, and to please him, Baba permitted it. Footnote here. A Shenai is a double-reeded musical instrument resembling an oboe. At the same time, Baba conveyed to the Mandali by gestures, what is wrong if one more headache is added to my 1,700 worries? He is in trouble, and so am I. The, quote, musician, unquote, not knowing what Baba was saying, went on playing the Shenai loudly. Baba pretended to enjoy the music. The man concluded his performance, exclaiming, Baba, only you appreciate my art. I'll come often to make you happy. Smiling, Baba agreed, and the mad musician left. Baba then remarked, see how I always keep others pleased despite my being upset and preoccupied? That night, Nusarwan Sata came from Ahmednagar to see Baba after a month's absence. He spent the night and left the following morning. Since Baba had stopped wearing his sadra for the previous 4 days, he moved about dressed only in baggy boxers. But on Sunday, 17 June, 1928, the women dressed him in an attractive gray kaftan. Even though Baba admired it, after a short time, he took it off and presented it to Chota Baba. And once again, he donned his usual white sadra. Each of the women staying with Baba wanted to comb his beautiful long hair. To resolve the problem of who would be given this privilege, Baba proposed to hold a lottery every day. This lottery continued for some days, but Baba eventually gave this special duty to his dearest Mera. Master allotted separate rooms to Chota Baba, Gustaji, and Gulmai near his seat on 18 June, and a new timetable was drawn up for the Prem Ashram boys. In the afternoon, Baba pulled the heavy roller with the help of Bailey and Jalbai, preparing the ground for the construction of the Mandali's new Makan. During this period, Baba did not approve of the Mandali members being too friendly with one another. He wished for a real bond of friendship between them. Okay, we can have another reader.
Marvin, we can't see the screen share. Could you look into that? I know, Eugene. Thanks. Thank you so much. From 9:37? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Toka. For a time, this meant that outwardly they should actually behave indifferently toward each other, while inwardly remaining friends. The reason Baba did not wish them to be so close was that it gave rise to partiality. It would greatly upset Baba if, due to partiality, some mistake of a monthly member was kept hidden from him by one of his friends. For example, on the 18th, Baba took Vishnu severely to task in regards to Rustam, warning him, "Now, you two are siding with Rustam? Padri and Pandu are his old friends because they have past connection with him from previous births. But why do you want to fall into that pit also?" Baba concluded, true friendships consist in not hiding the faults of one's friends so that they will be fed, so that they'll be freed of their drawbacks. Partially, here is not helpful. Baba later remarked to the Mandali, Toka is good, but my heart is not happy. At the Taj Mahal Hotel in Bombay, one is surrounded with all comforts and good food. But if you get a stomach ache, you would be unable to enjoy it. In the same way, despite everything being suitable here, my heart is not happy. As a doctor advises a change of place for one's health, my doctor tells me to change my environment because my heart is unhappy. On 19th June, the schoolboys Ali Akbar and Ramji broke one of the established orders, causing Baba to complain. What is the use of remaining here when the Mandali and boys disregard my wishes? How could I be happy when I have to pamper all, fulfill their whims, and patting everyone just to get him to do his duty? Since moving to Toka, Ali Akbar and Ramji had been causing much trouble in the ashram. Baba was quite fond of both boys, but because of their disobedience and their inattentive and indifferent attitude, Baba asked the Mandali to prepare an estimate of expenses necessary for moving the ashram from Toka. Since they had been staying there for less than 2 weeks, the Mandali were naturally shocked that Baba was thinking of leaving already. Despite their behavior, both Ali Akbar and Ramji received special attention for over 2 hours, emphasizing to him, obedience to a master's orders is most important, and love is only born when my orders are obeyed. Remember this, even in the midst of the highest state of intoxication, let your head always be on the master's feet. If you follow this, you will turn into a touchstone. After the outburst of emotion on the part of pre-mushroom boys, the previous January, Baba would discourse to them on various spiritual subjects, trying to improve their conduct and character by pointing out their smallest mistakes. Now, He was adding fragrance to their flower of their love by being strict and emphasizing complete obedience to his orders. Bailey was Baba's childhood friend and would at times take advantage of his long term contact with Baba. Due to certain indiscreet actions on Bailey's part, Baba decided to teach him a lesson. He presented Bailey with his kafani robe, instructed to keep silence for some days. Later, when the Mandali were being treated to tea, Bailey appeared in his conspicuous attire. After tea, when Bailey had gone to his room, Baba remarked, "This is called pampering on my part." Baba felt special that Baba had singled him out to wear this distinctive dress as he had done earlier with Chota Baba. After some days, however, Bailey found himself in an increasingly distressful situation wearing the kafni around the ashram. The initial pleasure he felt was nothing compared to the pain he later experienced from the sharp sting of Baba's goading arrows. Baba was taunting him because while Bailey was in Karachi, he had allowed some Nail people to worship him by performing arti before him. When he was living at Mehrabad, he had a false air of pride and self importance about him, and he was easily offended and short tempered if anyone questioned his actions. To take him down a peg, as it were, Baba played a trick on him by feeding his ego. He paid respect to him by asking him to wear this special kafani, making him appear amongst the select like Chota Baba. Bailey soon realized his mistake, however, and asked Baba's permission to dress in his regular clothes again. But Baba would not hear of it and ordered him to keep wearing the kafani. After a number of days, Baba finally released him from the order, and Bailey inwardly swore to have nothing further to do with posing as an advanced soul. He remembered well the master's warning given to him for 4 years before during a walking trip in South India. Never become a Baba. On the 19th of June, a swing was erected near Baba's seat where he would sit and rock himself. Since moving to Toka, the Mandali observed almost constant changes in Baba's moods. One moment he would look pleased and the next furious. One moment he would be solemn and the next his usual genial self. On Wednesday, 20th June 1928, the Mandali moved into their new Makan quarters, which was finally ready for occupancy. Bailey described their accommodations. Amidst the small and large tress were scattered small and larger houses made out of bricks and sand, divided into 2 or 3 groups. According to convenience, some houses had 5 to 7 mandali staying, and in some 12 to 15. A brick room for Baba had also been constructed. Broker had come on his usual Wednesday visit that day with anger. In the evening, Baba ordered tea for all in honor of the Mandali moving into their new quarters. A chapter titled The Master and His Grievances. The Master and His Greatness. was read out from the book Some Hours of Meditation by Alexander. Angal translated it into Marathi and Rao Saab into Persian. While it was being read, one of the boys, Abbas Khan, collapsed after his own words, being dazzled by a powerful light. On the 21st, Baba played cricket with the boys for the first time since moving to Toka. Dhake was living in Toka with his wife, Kashibai, in the family quarters, along with the other teachers, some distance away from the Mandali's residence. That morning, Vishnu had gone to Dhaki's room for tea. When Baba found out about the meeting, he berated Vishnu and Dhake and then ordered the Mandali. None should enter the family quarters or the compound of women Mandali. A notice was prepared to this effect and handed out to every person to read. From that day on, Meherji and Ramju were appointed to keep watch near the women's quarters from 2 in the afternoon until 8 at night. Whenever Baba visited the women mandali, the Prema Ashram boys would follow him and try to bring him back to their side. The boys would not leave him alone. Even though the women were given very few occasions to be with Baba privately, one day when Baba was sitting with the women, the boys appeared on the scene. Eugene, could you read next? Thank you.
Sure. Page 940, Toka, 1928. When the women complained that he was not giving them enough of his company, Baba replied, "What am I to do? Where am I to be? Here or there? If I remain here, the boys are disappointed. And when I am with them, you become displeased. So now decide the issue by a tug of war. I will go wherever I am pulled." Baba stood in the middle, and the women held one of his arms and the boys his other. "Pull with all your might," Baba indicated. "Let's see who is stronger and who loves me more." The contest began, and Baba was tugged back and forth. It lasted for several minutes, and the women won. As a reward, from that day on, Baba spent additional time with the women Mandali. The master would go to the women's quarters for his bath and meals. During his bath, he would wear his chadis. Mera's sister, Franey, would wash Baba's head, Khorshid his back, and Mera his feet, after which they all would rinse him with warm water. It was the duty of a maidservant named Saku, then staying with the women, to bring the buckets of bath water. She too had the opportunity of pouring water over the master. He would discuss spiritual subjects with Saku, and the women felt that Baba had a great affection for her. But his love for Mera was unique, as Krishna's was for Radha. Once Baba said to Mera, my love for you is excessively more than for anyone else." One day, while explaining certain spiritual matters, Baba related this tale to the women Mandali. There once was a yogi who had the power to remove his intestines and wash them. One day he did this and kept them in the sun to dry. A dog saw the organs and ran away with them. Terribly upset, the yogi ran after the dog. You may think I am exaggerating, but it is a common feat among yogis. Such powers do not count along the path. I am going to give you something quite different. My gift is something special. I am not going to give you such powers. Otherwise, you might have to chase after dogs. Baba wanted the Mandali to serve him with humility and do very lowly tasks. For example, as there was no sweeper in the ashram, Baba's uncle Masaji was given the duty of cleaning the toilets of the women Mandali, as he had done at Meherabad. He would also clean the cistern several times a day, whenever it would fill up with runoff bath water and residue water used to clean the pots and laundry. Page 941, Toka, 1928. As in Meherabad, the residents in Toka were divided into 3 sections under the management of Bwasha Saheb, Rao Saheb, and Rustam. Bwa Saheb was in charge of the boys of Meher Ashram, Rao Saheb of the Prem Ashram boys, and Rustam of the Mandali. At meals, the Mandali were given stale chapatis to eat and had no proper arrangement for cooking. But under Bwa Saheb, the children did not suffer in this way. The food cooked for them was excellent, and they were given milk each day. The Mandali had to remain content with their bland diet, and hence Pendu named the Mandali's section the Harijan department. Baba entered seclusion inside table cabin on Friday, 22 June 1928. He remained in the small cabin fasting on 1 meal a day, which Gulmai would bring from the women's quarters. This sudden seclusion, without any prior intimation, caused the women Mandali to wonder whether Baba was upset with them. Gulmai even informed them that Baba had said he would remain in seclusion for several years. All except Franey decided to keep silence while Baba was in seclusion. Gulmai conveyed this to Baba, and he sent them this message. I am not displeased or offended with you in any way. I have to remain alone for my spiritual work. So start speaking and stop worrying. The women obeyed accordingly. Baba would call for his meal at any time during the day, which required Naja. Could you scroll up, please? Which required Naja to keep his food always ready. And because of this, she would serve leftovers to the women Mandali. They eventually complained to Naja to give them Baba's food at night if he had not requested it. So finding that Baba had not called for his food all day, Naja served it to the women that night at 9 o'clock. However, at midnight, Baba suddenly called for his food, but there was nothing left to give him. Baba sent this message: all who kept me hungry by eating my food will get a stomachache. This incident made things much easier for Naja, as now all the other women understood that food should always be kept for Baba, even at night. The next day, Gadakar left for Pune to continue his studies. Baba stayed in seclusion throughout the day.
Footnote there says Gadakar was pursuing a degree in education to obtain a teaching certificate.
On 24 June, Baba rose at 6 o'clock and found that there was no one nearby to attend to him. Also finding no water kept nearby to wash his face, he became very angry. he had specifically ordered Jalbai not to leave his place beside the cabin, but Jalbai was not there. Baba reprimanded the Mandali. Since no one pays any attention to me, I will now attend to my own needs. I don't need anyone's help. All of you are tall talkers and self-praisers. You boast that you are my disciples, but no one is there to faithfully carry out his duty. All respect me as their master, but give me only trouble, harassing me instead of serving me. Baba concluded, threatening, I am now absolutely fed up. I'm disgusted. One day I will go away all alone and no one will ever see me in my physical form again. You will not be able to find me. This is for sure. Write this down. All morning, a tense atmosphere prevailed, but by evening, Baba's mood simmered down. Nusserwan Satha and the Jesawala family came at noon and returned 4 days later, and Adi arrived that night. While speaking to the Mandali about the expected arrival of Meredith Starr, his fiancée, and her sister, Baba revealed, it's a pity that adults are coming from England instead of boys. Starr is a little in the spiritual line, but his master, Johnston, is much advanced, the only one in Europe of his kind. He has written nice books.
We have an asterisk there, footnote. Previously, Baba had stated that there was an advanced soul in London between the fourth and fifth planes, so it seems likely that he was referring to John Caldwell Johnston. Rustam had met Johnston in Portsmouth and told him of Baba. In addition to the Book of the Beloved, a modern epic in 3 parts, Johnston was the author of Cantabile, Songs and Poems, and various poems that appeared in the Hollywood-based Theosophist and the Star. In the late 1920s and early 1930s, his poem, The Praises of Fuji, appeared in Asiatic Review.
Chahagan who was an expert swimmer, was directed to teach the boys swimming in the Godavari River. One day, without his knowledge, some of the boys went for a swim. When informed, Chahagan became very worried and ran to the river, where he found the boys on the point of drowning. Chahagan swam out to them and rescued them. The following day, Mehdi Khan rescued Abbas Khan from drowning. And when Baba found out about this incident, he stopped the swimming lessons. On 25 June, when Rustam requested that Baba allow the children to swim again, he consented, remarking, "What a pity. You all know how to swim, and I, in whom all swim, do not know how." When Dastur asked Baba why he had not learned swimming, Baba joked, "Because I no longer need to swim. I have swum in eternity, and now all swim in me, but they are unaware of it." At Toka, Chahota Baba was still being kept in close proximity to the master. Another seat was carefully built by Pendu and Padri for Chahota Baba alongside Baba's table cabin.
Okay, who's our next reader, Mona?
It's Mahu.
Just one thing, Eugene, the H in those names are silent. Chagan, Chata, Chata Baba, Chagan.
You hear that, everybody? Silent H's.
Yeah.
This Chuggin, Chugging is the correct way, according to Bill
Chagan.
Alvarado, who spent a lot of time with Chugging. And
Yeah, Chagan.
Chojababa.
That's what I said, Elizabeth. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can we continue?
Tata.
Thank you so much.
All right. Page 943, Toka, in year 1928. Tata matting was erecting surrounding it for privacy, and a red flag was hoisted above it. All were cautioned not to go near the area when the flag was being flown. This order was also written on the notice boards in the Prem Ashram and Sadak Ashram. On the 27th, Baba declared, quote, "From the 1st of July, I will closet myself in this seat for my work for the Prem Ashram boys," end quote. He added, quote, "I will make them the envy of all." The Mandali anticipated a further outburst of weeping on the children's part. From Thursday, 28 June 1928, Baba began spending more time with the Prem Ashram boys, once again fixing certain times of the day when the boys should come to him. They were ordered to be near Baba every day from 9 to 11 a.m. and again from 5 to 7 p.m. Later that day, while discussing the ashram boys, Bo Sahib complained to Baba that Rao Sahib and Chanji were a hindrance in his work. Dastur backed Bo Sahib, and Chanji and Rao Sahib were called before Baba. Bo Sahib claimed that due to interference from these two men, the children were being spoiled. Dastur entered, and a prolonged and heated discussion followed, in which Dastur angrily shouted his opinion. Baba admonished him, quote, "What you say is true, but your way of talking is not good." Dastur lost his temper again and flew into a rage, threatening to leave for Bombay. For some time, Baba listened patiently and then replied, quote, "If you want to go away, you may. I don't need you. You need me. You are not in the least obliging me by staying here." Hearing this, Dastur stood up and stalked off to his room. Disgusted by his behavior, Baba remarked, "How long am I swallow this? You men don't oblige me in any way by staying with me. Although I am your master, I serve you, and you people are under the impression that you are serving me." In the evening, Baba sent food to Dastur, but he refused it. He did that. Okay, a little bit more, please. More. When it was sent again, Dastur relented. He informed Baba that he would be leaving the next day. Baba replied, "Beware of what will happen to you if you," and I need more.
Marvin, could you please scroll down or scroll up
Sorry.
on the page? Thank you.
Okay, so I read this again. When it was sent again, Dastur relented. He informed Baba that he would be leaving the next day. Baba replied, be aware of what will happen to you if you are proud." Baba then forgave him, consoling him not to worry and have a good sleep. The next day, the master spent a long time explaining certain points to Dastur. Continuing page 944, it is best if there is a balance between the head and the heart, but to combine them and keep them balanced is almost impossible. Even in a small, petty matters, the intellect rules the heart and spoils its mood. There is nothing better than if your duty is performed according to my wish and with a balance between the head and the heart. Try, and I will help you. Even as a little salt spoils an entire pail of fresh milk, so also the virtues of a man are nullified by a strike of pride in his character. Meredith Storer, 38, along with his fiancée, Margarita or Margaret, Evelyn Ross, 36, and her younger sister, Esther, 31, arrived in Toka at noon on Saturday, 30th June, 1928. With them came Minu Pohowala and Ardeshir Shapurji, named Kakabaria from Bombay, Keki Irani from Ghatkopar, and Rosi Irani from Qatar. Rostam met them at the confluence of the Parava and Godavari rivers and brought them to Toka in his car. They were pleasantly surprised at the beautiful surroundings and immediately liked the place. The group offered flowers and fruit to Baba. Rostam took them on a tour of the ashram, and they were allotted special rooms which had been built for them, furnished with furniture brought from Mehrabad. Roland Meredith Storer had been interested in Eastern philosophy and spirituality from an early age. Footnote. Marvin, footnote. Oops, no, it's a little bit tough. Just go up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the first one, after early age, please.
Meredith Starr's given name was Herbert Close.
Mhm.
His father, a successful investor, was deceased, but had separated from Meredith's American mother. Meredith had changed his name when he was 27, perhaps in relation to his work as a reviewer for the Occult Review, in which he also published some of his poems. Meredith married in 1917 and had 2 sons, but he and his wife divorced in 1930, and he married Margaret Ross later that year.
Okay. Okay, so when he read the Upanishads, he felt as if he had lived with such thoughts for ages. He spent time with Aleister Crowley and Rudolf Steiner. Another footnote.
Aleister Crowley, 1875 to 1947, was a British occultist and writer. And Rudolf Steiner, 1861 to 1925, was an Austrian mystic and theosophist.
After,
I think Baba said Steiner was on the 5th plane, maybe.
Oh, really?
Not sure, but he was definitely advanced.
I know Meredith Storer is reincarnated now. I know who he is. After much meditation and periods of solitude, he gained some spiritual insight. And when he met Rustam in London in April, he said his prayers for the guidance of a living master were finally answered. He and Margaret had sold all their belongings before coming to India, expecting to live in Meher Baba's ashram permanently. Meredith later wrote, before meeting the master for nearly 20 years, I had sought with unabated ardor for the secret of life. During this period, many remarkable experiences were vouchsafed me, including states of cosmic consciousness lasting for several months. Yet, on meeting Shri Meher Baba, I realized that during the whole of my previous life, I had been like a man stumbling about the desert in the starless night with only a rudimentary candle for guidance. Footnote.
This came from the Occult Review, November 1929.
I'm sorry, what review?
The Occult Review, it was
the
written in
Occult.
that paper, yeah.
Okay. Later that night, explaining to Starr about meditation, Baba stated, quote, meditation and concentration should be as natural as a lizard concentrating on its prey, oblivious to everything else. Its concentration is so one-pointed that it only waits to pounce with no other thought except the hunt until it has caught its prey. Page 945, still in Tuka. On 1st July 1928, after a gap of 2 months, Baba ordered the boys to meditate at 6 o'clock in the morning for 45 minutes and again in the afternoon from 4 to 4:30. Classes in the school were regularly held and daily attendance was required. There was a full moon the following day and a holiday was granted. In the morning, the boys washed Baba's feet and games were played throughout the day. At midnight, Baba took a stroll in the moonlight with some of the men. They stopped by the river and rested for a while. And Faram, Minu, and Etki entertained the master with songs. Dastur was still disturbed after keeping himself aloof for some days. On 3rd July, he asked permission to go to Bombay, and Baba allowed him to leave. Minu also left that day. Later in the day, when the boys were played in the field, a cow suddenly rushed toward them. Beidul ran forward and caught hold of the cow's horns. The animal did its best to fling him off, but Beidul twisted its head and succeeded in bringing it to the ground, thus saving the boys from harm. Baba was pleased with Beidul's courage, and the next day, in his honor, he gave everyone a tea party with baujias. Afterward, Rustam and Vishnu delivered speeches of appreciation. On Wednesday, 4 July 1928, Baba ordered Meredith to observe silence for a period of time, conveying this message to him, quote, the time of my manifestation all over the world is very near. You will play an important role in that universal game of mind. End quote. While in the ashram, Margaret and Esther were given the duty of sewing for 3 hours each day and were also instructed to meditate. Occasionally, Baba would send for them and they would sit beside him. To Esther, Baba said, quote, "Do as I say, and I will make you another sister Nivedita, another sister Nivedita." And now footnote.
Sister Nivedita was born Margaret Elizabeth Noble, 1867, died 1911. She was an Irish social worker, author, teacher, and disciple of Swami Vivekananda, whom she met in 1895 in London. 3 years later, she moved to India and joined Vivekananda, who christened her Nivedita, one who is dedicated to God.
Margaret had previously written a note of instruction to the Mandali, which stated, "When Master Star is meditating and does not wish to be disturbed, he hangs a piece of orange ribbon over the partition. If anyone coming with a note or message from Baba sees the ribbon, then please give us the message, or if we are not there, put it on the table and tell Baba."
All right, thank you, Mahu. We have another reader.
And I leave now, Jai Baba.
Yes. Marian.
Marian, go ahead,
Yes.
please.
Then, if it is important and he wishes Mr. Starr to be disturbed, do so. That is all right. Of course, Baba may enter at any time. However, on 5th July, Meredith tacked this sign on his door: "Do not disturb, I am meditating." Later, Baba went to his cabin and knocked on the door. Meredith did not open it, and Margaret pointed to the sign. Baba smiled and left without commenting. He had asked Meredith to keep silence, not to meditate. The object of Starr's meditation had come to see him, but the meditator was not to be disturbed. What could the master do? Baba wanted to awaken Meredith's heart, but Meredith was trying to see Baba only through his mind. On the 5th of July, Baba began another long fast inside the table cabin. He did not even drink water the whole day, but at night he sipped a little and had a cup of weak tea. As the red flag was flying over his cabin, no one approached the area. In the evening, Baba remarked, "All accept me as their master and revere me, but no one carries out my orders and obeys me as I wish. I am still without a single disciple. In fact, all are my masters, and I am their disciple, since I have to act according to their wishes." The boys in the Prem Ashram were all spiritually inclined and frequently would become overexcited in their enthusiasm. Regarding his spiritual work with them, the next day Baba advised the boys, "Don't be hasty. The preparations are being made and you are being prepared for what I want to give. You would not be able to assimilate anything new if I were to give it to you now. It would be too heavy a meal for you to digest, too strong a dose. So be patient and wait for the banquet." Kak Sahib had been to Pune and returned on 6th July with his family, and they began staying in the ashram in separate accommodations. Nastur returned from Bombay the same day and rested for a short while on Baba's gadi. Bailey reported this to Baba, who replied, "So what? I only want love, and he has it. I have no objection to his lying there." Bailey felt that to occupy the master's special seat was a great insult. But Baba made him understand that he gave no value to a piece of wood and some cushions. Scroll up, please. It was only love and obedience that mattered to him. Gulmai's birthday was celebrated that day, and Baba distributed sweets and tea. At 2:00, Baba suddenly left the table cabin, complaining, "This place is not suitable for my work," and proceeded toward the riverside in search of a better place for seclusion. He walked to many different spots, but found none to his liking. Finally, he selected a corner near his gadi where he could remain undisturbed. But there was another reason for Baba's sudden break in his confinement. On Saturday, 7th July, 1928, Aga Ali's father again came to Toka to take him away, saying that he had heard a report that Meher Baba had left the ashram and all the schoolboys had gone insane. Haji was taken to meet his son, and after observing that the boy was well and normal, he returned to Bombay the following day. As mentioned, Ardashir Shapurji Baria, 37, had come to meet the master at Toka and wished to stay in the ashram. To test him, Baba directed him to do the work of preparing bamboo matting. He was unfamiliar with such work, but Pendu showed him how to weave them, and he brought the finished mats to Baba. After inspecting the mats, Baba put on Baria's chapals and remarked, "Your chapals don't fit me. What can I do? When your chapals are my size, I will keep you with me." Baria was confused by Baba's words, but what Baba meant was that Ardashir Baria was not yet ready to stay with him. So Baria left Toka after some days to pay the price for a suitable pair of chapals for Baba, to prepare himself and make his life worthy of staying with the master. Ardashir was later known as Kaka Baria and became one of Meher Baba's closest mandali. But he suffered 2 years of testing before he was fit to join the beloved. Kaka was born in Navsari on 23 February 1891. He studied mechanical engineering in college and worked for 2 years for the Greaves Cotton Mills of Bombay, the same company for which Chanji had worked. After working for a similar firm in Nagpur for 5 years, Kaka spent 2 years at the Tata Iron and Steel Company in Jamshedpur. He had also worked in Iraq as an automotive mechanic. In 1928, when he met Baba, he was living in Bombay and was the owner of several taxicabs. From childhood, Kaka had been interested in visiting the tombs of well-known saints. While in Nagpur, he met Tajuddin Baba, who assured him, all will be well with you. He also visited Hazrat Babajan when he was in Pune. Even though he would see her regularly, he would never say a word to her. One day, she inquired why he never asked her for anything. He replied, you are the ocean, and I am but a traveler who has come to drink from the ocean. Kaka met Narayan Maharaj as well, who had him sit near him and treated him kindly. Finally, he met Upasni Maharaj, and it was Maharaj who actually told Kaka to go for Meher Baba's darshan. Since no barber in Toka was willing to cut the hair of the Mohammedan and Harijan boys, Pendu was asked to shave and cut the hair of the boys and residents. A structure made of bamboo matting was improvised with 2 mirrors, 2 chairs, and a bench for keeping newspapers and magazines. A man named Subedar volunteered to help Pendu. As footnote.
Subedar had lived in Meherabad for a time in 1927.
The opening of the shop was on Sunday, 8th July, 1928, when Pendu shaved Baba, his first customer. Phonograph records were played in the background, and the atmosphere was filled with light-hearted fun. Meherji entertained the group by doing gymnastic tricks, and tea and refreshments were served. Later that day, Baba recounted this tale. A Sadguru once caught hold of a boy and said how he wished that he would become his disciple. The boy was not interested, but the Sadguru persuaded him to be his disciple by promising him progress on the spiritual path. He promised to take the boy through the plains and let him have powers. Day after day, the boy regularly came to the master, solely in hopes of this achievement. He waited 6 years, but never entered the plains. He eventually realized that the master's promise was a ploy and meant something else. It is the work of Sadgurus, it is the profession of Sadgurus, and it is the wish of Sadgurus to keep those of past connection near them by giving them false promises to make them stick to them. From the 1st of July, 1928, a sannyasi named Shankar Pate had been staying in Toka. Baba had instructed him to meditate while seated under a tree, and he was given 1 meal a day. Of all the sannyasis, wandering yogis, mendicants, and fakirs who came to the master, this one proved to be the most steadfast, remaining under Baba's direct instruction for 6 months. The sannyasi lived like a recluse while in Toka. One day, while mentioning his solitary nature with the Mandali, Baba was reminded of Nusarwan Sadha. Baba had advised him to give up politics and remain with him, to which Nusarwan agreed, but so far had not done. Baba quoted this couplet by Vivekananda. Maya, let go thy hold. O sannyasi, be bold. Which meant that one should be courageous enough to take the step of breaking one's connection with the world. Despite Baba's repeated advice, Nusarwan never gave up politics and never joined the ashram, though he continued to stay in contact with the master his entire life. Even though Baba was fasting, he would often serve meals to the mandali and boys and was careful to see that no food was wasted. On Monday, 9th July, 1928, some of the mandali discarded a portion of their lunch. When Baba found out, he asked with the obvious displeasure, "Why did you throw away some food?" They replied that he had served them more than they could eat. "I will serve as much as I like," Baba scolded, "but you should never waste food. You should have eaten it even if your stomachs had burst. You know it is my standing order not to waste food. Why did you break that order? Am I so mad as to give you more than you could eat? Haven't you at least that much understanding after so many years? This path is not as easy as swallowing ladus all day. You have no idea what I'm giving you through this food." Once a week, Pesu would go to Ahmednagar for marketing and would always dress in torn clothing. In spite of Rostam's constant pleading with him to wear better clothes, Pesu refused to change his attire, even though Rustam offered to pay for the material and tailoring charges. One day, Pesu went for a swim in the river and left his tattered clothing on the bank. On Baba's instructions, Rustam snuck up and tore his clothes even more. When Pesu came out of the water and found his clothes in shreds, he wrapped a towel around himself and ran to Baba. At the time, Baba was serving lunch to the boys. Pesu could not contain himself and said, "Baba, Rustam." Baba interrupted him and asked, "Why didn't you bring lemons from the bazaar?"
All right, thank you, Marion. We have a next reader, please.
P.S. Could you read? Thank you.
Pesu, who is supposed to be reading?
I just announced that, Elizabeth. There's somebody called P.S. who came before you. She's going
Thank
to
you.
read it.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Pesu again tried to explain what Rustam had done, but before he could continue, Baba asked the same question. This exchange was repeated 2 or 3 more times until at last Pesu walked away. Afterward, Baba burst out laughing with a big silent smile, and all the rest thoroughly enjoyed the joke. Leader was new to the Mandali, having recently joined, and he expressed his willingness to serve Baba in any way. As mentioned, there was no sweepers in the ashram, and this was a problem as there were no flush toilets or septic tanks, just tin boxes under each toilet, which had to be emptied and disinfected daily. Masaji was given the duty of cleaning the women toilets, and the men would relieve themselves in the fields. But the boys' toilets required cleaning, and this was done by different men mandali. One day, Baba informed Pleader, "You should either work as a sweeper or fast for 7 months on water. Which do you prefer?" Pleader, who was from a wealthy family, chose to fast, but Baba suggested otherwise. "We masters also work as sweepers cleaning toilets, meaning sanskaras, and we do that internally. You should attend to the external latrines, and I will see to the internal. Don't think of anything else except this duty." Leader hesitated. Baba assured him, "Don't let it bother you. I will give you another duty after some time." Gustaji's brother Sorab suggested to Baba that for exercise the men should swim 4 to 5 miles in the river every day. Baba exclaimed, "Swim in me, I am the ocean." Chanji and Buasab have crossed it, and you are all swimming in it. I am the ocean of love. On Tuesday, 10th July 1928, the third anniversary of the Master's silence was celebrated. Minnu Pohovala and Ghani came. At 2 in the afternoon, Baba's feet were washed, and the Mandali and the boys gave him a bath. The daily singing of the Gujarati Aarti composed by Baba Bujavenar began from that day. As prasad, Baba distributed sweets and tea to all. Although Baba was in seclusion, he would come to the ashram every day for inspection and also go for a walk to the riverside. In the moonlight, he would often go for a ride along the river in a rowboat with the boys and the Mandali. Most of his time was spent with the boys. Page 951. When not explaining spiritual matters or giving them a discourse, Baba would play cricket, atya patya, and ping pong with the boys. In the games of cricket, Baba would be the captain of one team and Rustam of the other, and every day a match was played between their respective teams. The classes in the school were being conducted regularly with exams given periodically. On Sunday, 15th July 1928, S.N. Deshpande was hired to help Ed K. teach in the school. Footnote.
Two teachers, one named Cambley, had been hired at the end of June.
Baba himself would keep a watchful eye on the teacher's lesson. 4 boys were shifted from the Meher ashram to the Prem ashram that day. Ramaji was out of sorts and insisted on leaving, so he was sent to Arangao on the 17th. Bailey left for Pune on 19 July, where his mother was ill. One of the boys, named Damu, had been ill for almost 3 weeks with a persistent high fever. Baba called the boy and took him on his lap, saying, "Tell your fever to go to Baba." Let me repeat this. "Tell your fever to go to Baba. Don't worry. I'm always near you, with you, and in you." Baba played chess that night until 10 p.m. with Khak Sahib and Ramju. Parents of the boys were permitted to visit their children in Toka, and Baba even paid for their transport charges. A bus was arranged to leave from Ahmednagar, and the parents could come free of charge. But when some of the parents began asking for the bus too frequently, this facility was stopped. They could still visit any number of times, but they had to bear the charges for coming. A boy named Jamshed Afseri continued to disobey Baba's instructions, and on 21st July, he was asked to leave the ashram, which he did, showing no sign of regret. The next day, Aga Ali was reported to be misbehaving, so he was transferred back to the Meher ashram. It was a severe punishment for Ali, and he cried throughout the night. 2 more boys who were especially troublesome were Jamshed Khan and Mehdi Khan, both of whom left the school on the 23rd. Baba was not, however, displeased by their departures. On the contrary, he remarked, "A great burden has been lifted from my shoulders. I will be able to breathe freely now after half a year of tolerance." The next morning, several of the other boys began crying uncontrollably and behaving in an uncooperative manner. Baba was upset and blamed the staff, complaining, "If this is the result of so much labor and spending lakhs, hundreds of thousands of rupees, it has all been useless. Now it is better to close the ashram." On 23rd July 1928, Baba called Meredith Starr and discussed his future work. In the course of their conversation, Baba remarked, "I will work through you in the West. You will work for me directly. You are fit for this spiritual line, and so I have drawn you here. I will make you perfect in this life." Thinking himself to be someone important, Starr was of course delighted to hear this. Pleader had been to Bombay for a few days and returned that day with his mother and a friend, both of whom were pleased to meet Baba. On 24th July, the ashram boys were punished for their misbehavior the previous day by not being allowed to go to Baba or have his darshan. Baba did not visit the school, although he made his usual rounds of the ashram. Because of his misconduct, Aga Ali had been ordered to attend school and he obeyed, though he had tears in his eyes and soon expressed his desire to return to Bombay. Baba readily consented and motioned for him to leave immediately, but Rao Sahib intervened, appealing to Baba to forgive the boy. After several hours of discussion, Baba at last pardoned Ali. The next day, he forgave all the boys and allowed them to take darshan. Bailey and Ramju returned at noon. Padri left with Pleader's mother and returned 3 days later. The weather in Toka continued to be damp and dreary, which caused some of the Mandli and 5 of the boys to fall ill with fever. When Dr. Satte, the ashram's physician, did not show up for 3 days due to flooded roads, Baba himself began treating all the patients. He would prescribe and distribute medicines, take the patients' temperatures and feel their pulses. He would even wash their plates and glasses, not permitting anyone else to do his work for fear of contamination. Someone remarked, "Perhaps this place is unhealthy," to which Baba replied, "I am Jamir, resilient, enough for that. Let us see." And amazingly, all the patients became well within 2 days. Karim had been suffering from a high fever, but he was ordered by Baba to continue his duty in the Prem Ashram, and even he felt better.
All right, thank you, P.S. Elizabeth, would you pick it up from here?
Sure. Ramju was similarly affected but recovered quickly after Baba visited him at 11 p.m. and gave him medicine. Padri was in charge of the dispensary at Toka, with Behram serving as his assistant and as compounder. After residing in Toka for 2 weeks, Edke, one of the teachers, developed terrible sores on his leg, which became septic and would not heal. His condition became so severe that Masaji had to carry him around on his back. No treatment cured the infection. Dr. Sade was convinced that the only resort was to send Edke to Ahmednagar, where the leg would have to be amputated. A date was fixed for the operation, and the doctor came to Toka for one last checkup. This time, Baba attended the examination and inquired what medicines had been tried. Pointing to a bottle of lotion, Baba asked if it had been used. Dr. Sathe replied that it had not. So Baba picked it up and handing it to Edke, directed him to apply the lotion. The very next day, all traces of the infectious sores were miraculously gone and no amputation was necessary. On Sunday, the 29th July, Raya, Anna 104, and Gulabshad arrived in Toka. Raya and Anna had been staying in Ahmednagar since the move to Toka, and Gulabshah returned after being away since December. A cricket match was played that day. In the evening, Meredith read some of his poetry, which he would write daily. Afterward, Kak Sahab read out one of his compositions to Baba. Footnote.
Footnote, a collection of Meredith's poems were published in 1930 titled Arrows of Flame.
The next evening, one of the Mandali commented that it was remarkable that a few Europeans had come to stay at Toka. Baba pointed to Star's quarters and said, "In the future, many will come. This whole line of buildings will be full of Europeans." On 1st August 1928, Sankar Pate, the sannyasi at Toka, was told to fast on only water, and he agreed. He did so for 2 days and was then given oranges to eat. Baba went to the night watchman's quarters On the 1st, for a tea party, Kaka Shahani's family sang the Marathi arti, and the Mandalis sang the Gujarati one. That night at 9 p.m., Baba took 24 of the Mandali boating in the moonlight. They returned after half an hour, and Kak recited one of his songs, followed by singing of Edke, Sidhu, Dake, and Surab Hansotia's son Dara, who was staying at Toka and helping in the school. When Dara arrived, like everyone else, he was expected to obey the following 6 standing don't orders from Baba. 1, don't drink anything in a standing position. 2, don't accept any edible outside the boundary of MEHER ashram without permission. 3, don't touch the body of any boy of the ashram. 4, don't touch any article belonging to others except with permission. 5, don't use a plate and glass not belonging to you. 6, don't give your plate and glass to anybody. On 3rd August, Baba rose at 5, and at 8 o'clock, he called all the boys and presented each one with new coats, books, pencils, photographs of himself, and books about his life, probably Dastur's booklet. 2 days later, something quite different occurred. When Baba was seated on his gadi with all the boys gathered around him, he called each boy for a special prasad. And what was that prasad? A kick in the pants from Baba. For the first time, a physical reprimand was meted out to all the boys of the Prem and Meher ashrams. Phonograph records were then played, and a prasad of sweets was distributed. Baba's special prasad was not without meaning, for within a few days, the behavior and attitude of the boys seemed to undergo a radical change. The boys began meditating more and more, some even rising at 1 o'clock a.m. to begin their meditation, and they would meditate on their own without being instructed to do so. Within a few days, more than half a dozen boys were ready to be transferred to the Prem ashram. The marvelous part of it was that this new group of spiritually inspired boys including some of the ones who had been the worst troublemakers. The Mandali in charge of the boys were quite impressed to see how Baba's special prasad had its effect. During a discourse on Sunday, 5th August 1928, Baba emphasized to Gastaji's brother, Homi Hansotia, who had arrived in a Mohammedan outfit, and announced that he had converted to Islam. Mukti, liberation from all future births and deaths, is not possible without surrenderance to a perfect master. The outer forms of religions, their rites, ceremonies, and shariat are bindings, and religion itself is a prison. This conversion of yours is nothing but jumping from one prison to another. To observe the Parsi New Year, the school was closed on 9th August, and cricket was played. From 10:30 until noon, Baba's feet were washed by the boys. Earlier during the cricket match, Baba's knee was injured, but despite the pain and being on a fast, Baba played as actively as ever. He later served food to everyone, which they ate under the shade of a tree with Baba seated among them. At 3 o'clock, cricket was played again, but this time Baba did not participate due to his injury, but he watched from the sidelines.
Okay, we're going to hold it right there.